All right, so we're going to pivot because we're coming close to the end of our episode here, but I really, really, really want you to tell our listeners, Alicia, about your passion project. And not only because it's very, very interesting and it's very worthwhile and important, but also what made you take the leap to actually get it started and jump into this? Because a lot of times we have, just as people, as individuals, we all have these great ideas or passion projects, but we're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I have the time. I'm just going to sit on it. I'm going to wait for the right time. But you just actively jumped in there and now you're just full force. And so I'd love for you to talk about that, but also kind of how you got into it.
Absolutely. I'm going to start off with saying I am an advocate in the anti-human trafficking movement. And what does that look like? And what is the story behind that? I love telling. And everyone has their signature 2020 moments and memories, right? It was an unprecedented time. And during that time in that season of my life, we had, what was going on in the world, but we also had my husband being diagnosed with cancer, my daughter-in-law and two grandkids, one 6 weeks old and one 16 months old, coming to live with us because my son, who was getting discharged from the military, was stuck there because of the state of the world. Everything was, on a much slower pace. So they were living with us. We had like COVID, cancer, and a house full of kids in a small townhouse.
Wow.
But even during that season, what I really experienced was I can either sit here and be fearful and worry, or I can be grateful. And we all know that when you have a grateful thought, that supersedes any fear or every worry or any anxiety. So I just started being grateful. And as I mentioned earlier on, my faith is a huge part of my life. So I just kind of lifted it up to God in prayer. And I said, God, you have given us so many blessings. And I thank you for each one. And what can I do in this world that can make an impact that doesn't bring me immediate return or blessings or provisions, but I just want to leave a mark that will be a legacy that will make the world better than when it came. And so he handed me human trafficking. I didn't ask for it, but it kept coming up in very interesting ways. And so as I was exploring and learning more about it, I was actually shocked. And I like to say I was shattered because it's a very dark thing that occurs in this world. And it's actually the second largest crime in the entire world behind drug trafficking. You can sell a person over and over again. There are almost 47 million people around the globe enslaved today.
Wow.
1 out of every 4 of them is a child. So I was hearing these stories and having nightmares, and I was literally crying. I'm like, I don't think I could do this. This is way too dark and too deep. And I remember in that desperation, just God speaking to my heart, not like burning bush like Moses, but really in my heart to say, you can either sit here and cry about it and nothing will change, or you can use those tears to fuel the fire to make a difference. And I was like, okay, message received. And so what I started to do is explore what are the areas that I can make a difference. And I really saw 2 areas to make a difference. I'm not law enforcement. I wasn't going to go work for the government and going undercover and doing operations, but I can talk. God's given me the gift of speech and encouragement and articulation. So I focused on education, and I also focused on survivor support, because even though only 1% of victims of sex trafficking get out of sex trafficking alive, I wanted to say, I will go after the one. I will do whatever I can to support the one. And so there are 2 things that I've done that I've been able to have an impact. One of them is to be able to create a lot of, in San Diego County, community education awareness events to let adults and youth understand what human trafficking is, how it happens, how to avoid it, how to stay safe, right? That prevention piece. The other part is working in partnership with a survivor program that called Generate Hope. They have 2 homes in San Diego, 1 in Colorado, and they serve survivors that come to them from around the nation to be able to support them, whether it's through fundraising or doing service work at their properties to help them and helping bring them alongside me to get the word out. So I have become a leader at the Coastline Dream Center Stop Trafficking Outreach. So that's where I do those things. I also am on the committee for Generate Hope to help support them for their events. And then as I started working through this, I led some walks in our community and raised, $130,000 for education and survivor support. I just was thinking, how can I find a way? Is there a way that what I get to do every day in the field of aesthetics can be married with this passion project? And it came to fruition in that I got introduced to a former president of the ASLMS, which is the American Society of Laser Medicine and Surgery. That president, his name is Paul Friedman, his initiative was to create a pro bono registry of doctors who would do laser tattoo removal for survivors of human trafficking that were branded by their traffickers. So 1 out of every 2 victims is branded with a tattoo by their trafficker. And so this branding represents,
Wow.
just this psychological and physical capture. And so we created this registry. We did a needs and impact study that got published in a medical journal. And we created this registry that now has hundreds of volunteers, doctors that say yes, that when a survivor raises her hand and he or she is in a treatment program, and they're at that point in their recovery where they want to take this next step to have that brand removed. I just do it here. It could be any part of the body. Have that brand removed. There are doctors that are skilled and expert, high level, board certified, the best devices out there. They can help walk them through that process. And then we actually train the doctors how to work with this population using a tactic called trauma-informed care. So really, it's just been a blessing that I have been able to receive, to find time to use my skills to become a leader in this movement, and then to be able to find ways to actually make an impact in my professional life and in this passion project that I have.
That is just fabulous. But I also think that you made the time. I mean, find time and making time are two different things because you were passionate about it. You believed in it. It brought you to tears. You see the impact. You said 1%, but the fact that you're like, I'm going to sit here and help that 1%, it is so inspiring. And yes, you made time. So many of us can sit here and make excuses. I don't have the time, or I want to do something. Well, you could sit here and find every excuse in the book, right?
Yeah. And I say only God can make time. We have to find time. And I found time by removing things from my life that
Ooh.
was not serving myself or others. I made a conscious decision. So you're absolutely right. Like, there are only so many hours in the day. So you're absolutely right. I, with intention, did that. But when I did, I received so much more back than, watching Netflix. The biggest sacrifice I made, now it's not a sacrifice, is I don't have TV. I don't watch TV.
Oh, wow.
Zero TV. And boy, I'm happier for it. Not just because I have time to serve, but just because I'm not bombarded with things that are probably not great for my brain anyway.
Well, you're fueling your mind, body, and spirit. I mean,
Thanks,
that's it.
coach.
This is all full circle. And to
Wow.
find that creative space that you saw, laser and dermatology, where you are, to be able to bring that to that 1% that you're trying to help is phenomenal. I applaud you for not sitting back, making an excuse, and actually getting up and doing something about it. So congrats to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's a great point, Cindy. You brought together your background, your current situation and your job, and the people that you know and the context that you've known over the years. And then you bring it to this amazing cause that, you're right, it's scary and it's dark. I mean, listening to your story is both scary to me because I have a younger daughter. We all have daughters and they could be of any age, but we also know that it's out there and it's all over the news now. And I'm just impressed with what you're doing. I can't think of a better cause. I mean, that's just phenomenal. I was like crying. So
Well,
congrats
thank you
on
for
that.
giving the opportunity to share that with your listeners, because I think, like you just said, it can be scary, but to know that we can be empowered and equipped to do something about it. And like I said, I have the joy of being a humble servant in this ministry. I mean, this was given to me and I honor it, and I have received tenfold back in fulfillment and joy in making change. And I think one of the things too for your audience, it's important, is when you see a problem, a lot of us love to point it out. We're really good in society pointing out problems. But I've made it a personal approach to life, whether it's professional or in my personal life and my activities, is never come to point out a problem if you don't at least try to think of a solution. And being solution focused also allows you to elevate. It gives you critical thinking skills, and you do become out more of a leader. Even if your solution to the problem is not the one that's chosen, selected, that's okay. You're showing that you're a thinker and that you are creatively offering different ways to approach problems in this world. And I think we need more people like that, not more people just saying you're wrong, without saying, or this is wrong, without coming to the table with a solution that benefits the problem and those that are being impacted by it.
That's a true skill of a healthy leader, as you described earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
that brings out the healthy in it and encouraging. So being solution oriented can really help you solve a problem, even if your solution isn't the best idea, but it helps bring forth some discussion and conversation that's always needed to solve a problem.
Yeah. So I think with wrapping up, a couple of things that we love asking our hosts. Are there any books that have either influenced your life, you love to read, really are pointing it to maybe some of your career decisions or anything like that? So we'd love to hear a book recommendation or two. And
Okay.
then along with that, or could be a famous quote, something that you live by. I do love what you said about don't just have the ugly no, have a solution to the problem. So I do love that, but we'd love to hear more.
So I'm going to share my favorite leadership quote of all times. Anybody who knows me has heard me say this before. And it's by John Maxwell. And if you follow leadership,
Love him.
leadership
Love him.
approaches, John Maxwell is like the guru of all leaders. And so he has this one quote, and I share it a lot with my peers and the pros that I just mentioned that I work with. It says, leaders know the way, they go the way, and they show the way. So that's my favorite of all time leadership quote. That's really good. From books, book I read every day, which is the Bible. So to be honest, I actually am in the Word every single day. And I read it through for the past 5 years. Once a year, I do the whole Bible in a year, which is amazing. My husband and I are very much in the Word together. And then I brought some books.
Oh, I like this.
I have no affiliate link for these. So.
Visuals.
So this one is really, really good. It's by Liz Bohannon. It's called Beginner's Pluck. And she's a woman who created the company called Seco Designs. I don't know if you've ever heard about Seco Designs. They've moved into more of the business model of you could be a representative and represent their wares and their garments that are all made by women in Uganda. And it's
wow.
well, wait a minute. She came to be.
I did hear about her. I didn't know she had a book.
Good. It's so good. So I put a card in here because here's a quote on leadership. I thought you guys, just to get a taste of it. It says, there's nothing more humbling and awe-inducing and life-giving than standing alongside others, shoulder to shoulder, building something together that didn't exist before.
Oh, I love that.
Oh.
So this whole book, and when I read books, I like fold tabs, highlight, I'll put, tab markers in them. That's been a really good book. It's one of the lesser known ones. And I think she wrote it last year. So Beginner's Pluck. It talks about defining what pluck is, and it's an attitude and a spirit about how to have impact about something. So I'd highly recommend that one. And then the other one, if I could do one more, because the Bible is like foundational. This one I'm not quite done with, but I'm really loving it. It's called The Sacredness of Secular Work by Jordan Rader. So that's a really good book. It's more of a faith-based book. It really talks about that everything that we do can be an act of worship and bring God glory. And that if we pursue everything we do, we don't have to be a pastor or a minister or an evangelist on a corner, that we're working for everything for the greater good of others and man. That's the other one that I would recommend.
I love this.
Oh, Alicia, I love this too. And I'm actually going to read that Beginner's Pluck book because I'd heard a little blib about it, but the title didn't ring a bell till you mentioned Uganda. And then it clicked. And, I just really thank you for taking this time to speak to our listeners, because I think something I've really taken from this conversation is just how selfless you are. And I think that it kind of grows over. So clearly you're good at your job, but now your passion project and your family, like when you throw some good out in the world and it comes back to you, then the next thing you throw out just gets better and better. And I think you're just such a great example of that. So thank you so much, because this has truly been an enjoyable and inspiring conversation. I really, really am glad that we have an opportunity for people to hear your story.
Absolutely. You couldn't have said it better. I love this. You're so real, Alicia, and you're brave and you're going against the grain in so many ways, and you're just pushing through, and it's amazing. And you are a leader. You're a leader, whether you realize it or not. You've led a lot of people in your life, I'm sure. But
Lisa, she is a healthy leader.
A healthy leader. Yes, you are.
And
far.
Should I trademark it?
You might need to hashtag.
Yeah.
But just listening to you, it really inspired me, Alicia, to be a better person, to be a better leader, to do more for the good of mankind, because, life is short and it's important to be a good person. So
can I leave you with one final thought that's a visual?
Yes.
And thank you. Thank you for creating this space to have these conversations and being leaders yourselves. Because again, you are healthy leaders and you are empowering others with knowledge and information and different life experiences from all of your guests. In your busy life, you have found the time to do this. But here's the visual to wrap it up. So if you hold your hands in a fist.
All right, I'm doing it.
Right, we're holding our hands in a fist.
I'm doing it.
Right? Let's say we're holding in our hands our time, our worries, our fear, our money, all of these things in our hands, right? We can't actually receive anything else, right? If we let it go and open our hands, we can give them up, but we can also receive back. So when we clench to things so tightly, it's not just because we're afraid of losing them, but we also don't receive something in return. So when we give that, we will receive something. So I'll leave you with that.
That is a fabulous. It's like,
Very
wow.
powerful. Dang it. So much good, so much good stuff.
I'm going to walk out with my hands like this. Palms open, everybody.
Love it.
Flattered.
Love it. Thank you,
Thank you,
Alicia.
Alicia.
This has been phenomenal.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. I have loved this. I hope this exceeds expectations and really hits home for people.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
It was wonderful.